All right, welcome to another episode of Paul's Collectibles and what has become a tradition around here at my channel, my annual tour of my helmet collection. Now, I started this 3 or 4 years ago when I first started filming YouTube videos, and since then the collection has grown and has spilled onto other walls and out of the cases, and some are even in storage. And I like to go over them each year just to get an idea of what I added in the past 12 months. It's summer, it's time to do it again, so let's get into this in a hurry. Really fast, I'll talk about what the helmet is made of, where I purchased it from, and maybe a couple of other quick facts, and probably whether or not I can actually recommend grabbing the helmet and whether or not I like it. And I'll also talk about the cases and the stands here in just a second. But without any further ado, let's get into these. Okay, inevitably, and probably most often, the question I get is, Paul, what kind of stands are you using? Well, I'm cheap and I'm inventive, at least I like to think I am, and I use 12-inch to 11.5-inch tall brushed metal paper towel holders like this one right here. And if you look closely at my collection, you see I have a few different variations. The ones that hold up the Mandalorian helmets actually have removable caps on them, so you can shorten them by about 1 inch so that I can display them with their visors up. And the shelves, the cabinets that I'm using, these are Detolf cabinets, and they can be found at IKEA. Okay, let's concentrate on the cases first. They are organized by column, except for the top row, which is pilots and drivers, as you can see. And then far left column over there are specialty troopers. And then in the next column, we have what I like to call the Stormtrooper variants. And then we have the evolution of Clonetrooper to Stormtrooper down there. And then on this side, we have all of my Mandalorian helmets. And then we have some others that are in other places in the room as well, as you can see, and we'll get to those. Okay, first up we have my Turbo Tank pilot, the white one from Rogue One. This is a slush cast. It came from a place called Galaxy Toys overseas. It's a pretty good helmet. I can't complain. It's nice and sturdy. The only problem is that it has a flaw in the design of the visor, and it's too small and looks a little silly. Next, we have my TIE Pilot helmet. This is made out of a light ABS plastic. This came from what used to be called Anovos. They're now Denuo Novo. This one is an absolute thing of beauty. I can highly recommend it. It seems very fragile though, but if you just want one for display, it's an awesome helmet and I really like it. Next up is the AT-AT driver. This is also from Anovos. It's very similar to the TIE Pilot that sits next to it. As you can see, once again, beautifully screen accurate and absolutely stunning helmet. And Anovos / Denuo Novo did a very good job on this one, and I can highly recommend it. Next to him, we have the old school Boba Fett helmet from Hasbro's Black Series. If you know anything about Hasbro, you know these helmets, although not amazingly screen accurate, are really good for the low amount of money that you pay for them. They look beautiful, they display beautifully, and I don't have any problems with this one. And I gotta be honest with you, I really do like it. Okay, now we're going to start with the columns, and we'll begin with my EFX Collectibles Scout Trooper helmet. This is a good sturdy plastic and is wonderfully screen accurate. It's a beautiful helmet. They currently are offering these, but they want over $1,000 for them. If you've got the money, I can highly recommend it, but as I understand it, Black Series is bringing one out as well, so I cannot wait to compare the two to see what the differences are and how well that Black Series one stacks up to what is absolutely a stunning helmet, although too small to fit on my head. And as a quick aside, this is my buddy's trading card from the 501st Legion. He is approved as a Scout Trooper, so I store it in there. Next up, we have what is one of my favorite helmets in my collection, and this is the Denuo Novo, used to be a Anovos, Death Trooper helmet. It's an absolute thing of beauty. It fits my head. It's made of a sturdy fiberglass. The parts on the front actually feel like they're metal, and if they aren't, they're very convincing. This is one of the most sturdy helmets I have. It is beautiful. I can highly recommend it. I love this helmet. And also, my same friend is authorized as the Emperor, so I keep his 501st Legion card there as well. Coming down with the rest of the specialty trooper helmets is my Anovos Shoretrooper helmet. This one is also made of fiberglass. It is absolutely stunning as well. It fits on my head, fully lined on the interior, and is just screen accurate, and there is nothing to complain about with this helmet. If you can afford Denuo Novo / Anovos' prices, I can highly recommend this beautiful Shoretrooper helmet. And then finally, for the specialty troopers, we have the Branfuhr Studios. This is a smaller company. They're on the east coast of the United States. Patrol Trooper helmet. This is a blink and you'll miss him guy in the Rogue One, or not Rogue One, the Solo a Star Wars story movie, and I absolutely love it. Now this is a fiberglass cast with what feels like really thick plastic or maybe even rubber accessories on it, and this is one I can highly recommend as well if he is still offering them. Okay, let's get over here to the Stormtrooper Variations cabinet, and this is a helmet of my own making. And what I mean by that is it's actually an Anovos, a Denuo Novo standard Stormtrooper 501st, or not 501st, just standard TK Stormtrooper helmet that I painted with a black and gray deco, and now I call him the Tactical Operations Stormtrooper. And I have the whole suit, as a matter of fact, that I did in this deco, and I did a video on that years ago, but he gets a place of honor in my cases. These Denuo Novo helmets / Anovos are incredibly screen accurate. This is a light ABS plastic, and they're offering them again, as I understand it, right now on their website. They're a little pricier than the Black Series ones, but they are exactly a replica of what was used on screen in A New Hope, and I can recommend them. Below him, we have the Incinerator Trooper helmet, but this is from, I believe, something else. This is not from the Mandalorian, because as you can see, he's got more of a purple instead of a reddish deco. This comes from Anovos, now Denuo Novo. It's the same exact helmet I just showed you above his, but they painted this red line on, and I believe it might be from a video game or something of that nature. But once again, incredibly screen accurate, beautiful helmets, light ABS plastic, and anything from Anovos / Denuo Novo I can highly recommend, and this is no exception. Okay, here is my custom Artillery Trooper helmet. This started its life as a Black Series Incinerator Trooper helmet, but if you know anything about those helmets, you'll know that they're just silly looking. The weathering was so ridiculous. So I painted this one yellow so that I could have an Artillery Stormtrooper helmet. And then about a year later, Hasbro made one and brought theirs out. And frankly, I like mine better, so I display mine. And this is what the Hasbro version looks like, but I keep it boxed up in a closet somewhere because I don't need to, and I like mine better. And then finally, for the Stormtrooper variations, way down here on the floor, we have the Stealth Stormtrooper. What is this? The Blackhole Stormtrooper. But anyway, it's the Hasbro version, once again. Good, sturdy ABS plastic. And this is from a video game, I think, as well. But this is a beautiful Stormtrooper helmet. I love how the black is super glossy and how the blue and the piping kind of stands out on the sides. And I really enjoy this one. And I can highly recommend it as well if they come up for sale. I think they were GameStop exclusives, frankly. And if you look closely in his eye, you can actually see the reflection because he has silver effects in his lenses. Okay, the next column is the evolutions of the Stormtrooper / Clonetrooper helmets. And this is the Phase 1 Clonetrooper helmet. It's made out of like a fiberglass cast with plastic parts, and it comes from an Italian company called Dave's Armory. This one actually fits on my head. They did a really good job. The only problem I have with it is that the nose mouthpiece right in here is kind of wonky and it's a little messed up looking. Looks like he got punched in the mouth with, say, I don't know, a pole or something. But overall, it's a great helmet. It displays well, and I like the weathering that they did on it, and it goes well in my cabinet of the evolutions of the Stormtrooper. Down here we have my custom Phase 2 Clonetrooper helmet. This is not the Hasbro version. This is a cast as well, and as you can see, it's based on the CGI clones, as it is narrower and a little bit smaller than the one that Hasbro just recently released. And this comes from a company called Armory Prop Shop. They are unfortunately no longer in business, so I would not be able to tell you where to get this. Now, if they were still selling them, I could highly recommend it because as you can see, the weathering, the shaping, it's really good. They did an excellent job on it, and I have no complaints. Below that is my Hasbro standard Stormtrooper helmet. I actually really like this one. Now, it's based on the Rogue One mold, and it's not 100% screen accurate because it's got the silly voice changer thing on the back, but it's actually a really good looking helmet, and I like the fact that it's proportional and there isn't a lot of cracks and seams like were the ones you saw on screen. So this is the one that I display, but this, like I said, comes from Hasbro, and I can highly recommend it. And the third 501st Legion card that I display is my buddy, same one, he's also a Stormtrooper, and signed that one for me, so I store that there as well. And then finally in this cabinet is my First Order Stormtrooper helmet, and this is the second version of it. As you can see, the nose is a little thinner and they added the teeth. This is from The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. It's a little different than the ones we got in The Phantom Menace. But this comes from Hasbro. As you can see, it's a good sturdy, quality plastic, very shiny, very fun to look at. And so this is the one that I display. I had the Anovos one, but it was based on the Phantom Menace, and I like this look better. So this is the one that I display, and I actually donated my Anovos helmet to a charity auction for a children's hospital. And the fourth column is all Mandalorian helmets, and these to the last are all Hasbro Black Series helmets. So right up here we have the Mandalorian, standard Mandalorian helmet. I like the way this one looks, and I wasn't going to collect these, but my wife talked me into buying this one, and I just ended up going down that rabbit hole. Below him, we have the Black Series Bo-Katan helmet. I also have one from a private company, which I will talk about in just a second, but I ended up liking this one more because it doesn't look quite as artisan, whereas the other one that I had was actually like airbrushed, and it looked a little different, and I like the deco on this one, so this is the one that I display, although the other one is beautiful, and I filmed a video of it, and I sing nothing but high praises for that company. Below that is the Axe-Wolves unit. I forgot the name of these guys. Oh, Deathwatch, I think it was. But anyway, this is just the standard Deathwatch helmet. I have the Axe-Wolves one on order right now, and I'm imagining it's probably going to look very similar. All of these, if you look very closely, are just repaints of the Boba Fett helmet. And it's funny, this one and the Boba Fett helmet up top and the Boba Fett helmet down below, if you flip them over, they have the dent in the inside too, but this one was just smart enough to take the dent out of the top, so it wasn't so obvious. And then finally down here, we have the repainted, refitted Boba Fett helmet from the Book of Boba Fett. And I display this one because I like the way it looks, but I'll probably end up replacing it with a different one if they come out, because this one was a little bit of a disappointment in as much as it didn't really match what we saw on screen, and I was kind of hoping for a better version, although this is a good helmet and I like it. Hasbro make good solid helmets at the price point, so it gets displayed and I don't really have any complaints about it other than it really not being all that screen accurate. Okay, so I ended up filling up all of the detail cabinets, and I have another one that's not put together, but I didn't want to put yet another cabinet in. So this is the Black Series Phase 2 Clonetrooper helmet. I really like this one, but as compared to the one I showed you earlier in the cabinet, this one is very, very clearly based on the live action clones. The cut in the visor is different, it's wider and it's much larger, clearly so that a real human being could wear it as opposed to a CGI trooper. But these Black Series helmets are really nothing to complain about, and I like it, and it gets displayed on what has become my new clone wall. What we have here is the Denuo Novo 501st Clonetrooper helmet, and this one is just a stunning thing of beauty. These guys do such good work on their helmets, and I'm so glad I picked this up. It's a little bit pricier. I think it was in the $400 range on sale, but if you can afford it and you're really into helmets, even if you can't afford it, probably kind of like me, these are great helmets to have. It's got just a little bit of weathering. I think it's a nice cross between what Black Series put out and that custom one, because this looks a lot more screen accurate to what we saw in the movies, but still fits on my head and still looks really good. And then finally, for the clone wall at least, this is the helmet in my collection about which I know the least. This was sold to me by a buddy of mine from the Chronicles named Andy, and he got it at a convention, but the dude that sold it to him didn't know who had made it. It's obviously a cast. I filmed an entire video on this explaining the flaws and everything with the helmet and the interesting non-pedigree, but it's a great looking helmet. It's more of an art piece than it is anything else. The Commander Gree helmet, especially since we only got to see him on screen very, very briefly. So it's more pretty to look at than it is, say, like a prop replica per se. I consider this to be more of an art piece, and it really rounds out my clone wall very well. Now, if we back out from the clone wall, you can see I have an entire Transport Trooper statue over here. This is a 501st approvable costume that came from a company called Imperial Surplus. But more importantly, the helmet that came with it. This is one of my favorites as well, the Transport Trooper helmet. Now this is a cast, it's a good quality fiberglass cast. It came in pieces and I had to put it together and paint it, and I filmed a video regarding this, I believe, as well, if you'd like to check that out. But Imperial Surplus, it's a great quality helmet. It fits my head, and for the price that you pay, and it was a fun project too, especially since, you know, there's not a lot of detailed painting on this one in different color variations. Plus these guys are really dirty, so I had fun kind of messing him up and, you know, weathering the helmet. So it's a good looking one, and it displays here on my Transport Trooper statue. Now, I don't know if this counts as a helmet, but it's definitely headgear. This is my Imperial officer display, and this hat and this belt came from a company called Imperial boots. They're Americans or English, I believe, but they're in China. And I spoke at length about this hat and the rest of the costume in a video about how to become a member of the Imperial Security Bureau previously on my channel. Highly recommend these guys. Great screen accurate stuff, good quality, just great stuff, and there's absolutely nothing to complain about here. And lastly, I don't know if it counts as a helmet. It fits on my head, but you can't see out of it. This is the Sideshow Collectibles full-size Stormtrooper statue that comes in several pieces and you kind of have to build it, but the helmet comes alone and it just fits on the mannequin's head so that you can have a statue of a full-size Stormtrooper. Now this one has a lot of flaws, and probably about a year ago or so now, I filmed a video where I compared all of my Stormtrooper helmets. So if you're interested in a very detailed look at this and why this one just really isn't all that impressive, it's just impressive because it's on a statue that's so big. But if you were just to buy it on its own, especially for the price, you'd probably be a little disappointed. But like I said, not sure this counts, but I always throw it in my helmet videos because technically it's a helmet and it's full size. And finally, let's talk about some of the helmets that didn't make it onto display. I mentioned the Katan helmet that was a custom from a shop on Etsy, and it's stored away in a closet. And I also mentioned the Black Series Artillery Stormtrooper helmet. That one is also stored away in a closet because I like my custom better, frankly. And then the only helmet that I absolutely hate that I have, that I can absolutely not recommend, is my Carson Teva X-Wing pilot helmet, because, and if you want more details on that, I'll link the video below. It's just terrible. And the company that sold it to me was their small mom and pop shop, and it was just a horrible helmet, and it did not come in good condition, and it wasn't packed properly. So I can highly not recommend them. They're called Pilot Bay. And then finally, the same company that I bought my turbo tank driver helmet from, I also accidentally got an AT-ACT helmet from them as well, and that's Galaxy Toys. I cannot recommend that AT-ACT helmet because it is very close to the Shoretrooper helmet. And if you compare the two, the custom AT-ACT driver helmet is actually pretty terrible. The visor on the front is horrible, and it's too small and set too far back, so I can't recommend that. But there you have it. There's the 2023 Helmet Tour Collection Update from Paul's Collectibles. Yeah, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them down below. If you ask me a question that I answered in this video, I'm just going to link you to the part of the video where I answered it. But with that, thank you for joining me as I mentioned, and I will see you on the next episode.